This is Patriots Playbook.
The legend.
Is it my turn to talk now? It looked like the Patriots. You know what the Patriots look like? It looked like in real speed they're all running an instant replay. You know, they're doing the no, $6 million man thing.
What is the Patriot way?
The Patriot way is shut up, do your job.
How's it working for you now, buddy?
Would you really ask him like
That's
that?
about 15, buddy.
I think somebody probably does need to do that, buddy.
Now, here's your host of Patriots Playbook, John Rook.
Welcome to the program for a Wednesday, week 4 of the National Football League, getting ready to get started. And I'm actually feeling, Evan Lazar, I'm feeling just a little bit like I've been shunned.
Oh.
Because, you know, Taylor Swift doesn't come into the studio to attend our programs here. And so I'm feeling a little hurt. I'm feeling a little, left behind. I'm feeling a little out of pocket.
Oh.
You know, I mean, she's showing everybody else in the world love. Why can't she show us a little love?
You want your own Taylor love story, is what you're saying.
I don't want. Look, she's a little out of my age bracket, but I would tell you that I'm just, I'd like to have a little bit of the attention on us, because clearly, I mean, I've seen where Travis and Jason Kelsey have like the #1 rated podcast in the country right now, just because she decided to go to a flippin' football game.
Well, she's the biggest pop star on the planet.
She's probably the biggest personality on the planet, right? Most
great.
Recognizable person. I mean, that's something we used to reserve for people like Muhammad Ali and Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
But now it's Taylor Swift.
She's up there. I mean, look, she's great. You can't deny that. I mean, the Kelsey stuff is kind of insufferable to me. Maybe that's partially biased because I don't like Travis Kelsey very much. You
know what?
I can take everywhere.
I can take Travis Kelsey in dribs and drabs. I mean, I think what he's doing is okay. Fine. That's what he wants to do. But all this stuff about him being one of the greatest tight ends to ever play the game. No.
Greatest receiving tight end. Maybe.
He's a very good receiving tight end, but greatest tight end? No. I don't. No. Am I wrong?
No. I mean, I think he's the second greatest tight end of all time, but...
Second greatest? No, sir. The greatest tight end right now, I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to not say Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah.
But to me, I think I'd have to throw in John Mackey, for whom the collegiate tight end of the year is named after. I think I'd have to probably throw in Mike Ditka as a pretty good one. I'd even take the Cowboys' Jay Novacek. I thought he was a really good, tight end.
I guess it depends.
For those Troy Aikman
those guys
teams.
Are like basically extra tackles. Like
Novacek wasn't. Novacek was a very good receiving tight end.
But the game has changed a lot. I guess is my point of like how they use that position and what that position's stressed, to do and things like that. So. I don't know. I mean, Kelsey's production speaks for itself. So
well, because I think that the Chiefs utilize him more really as a wideout than anything else.
Yeah, but that's a lot of guys now that play that position.
That is as you just said, that's the position. That's the nature of the position today.
Yeah.
Whereas the Patriots tend to play with a little bit more of the traditional tight end that can also block and give you help, like we saw what Pharaoh Brown did last week, which was great. I mean, that was the game breaker.
Yeah.
That was the difference of the game. Most tight ends don't do that today because of the way spread offenses have, literally, put guys at all ends of the field, and so you don't have the role of traditional tight end anymore. It just doesn't exist.
It's really a trickle out from the college game. Like the college game, I feel like you're either truly a sixth offensive lineman, right, like a true blocking tight end, or you're like a Travis Kelsey type, like Dalton Kincaid last year coming out of college.
Yeah.
Didn't block a lick in college, but was a great receiving prospect. That's sort of the way that it is now. Like it's very, very rare in the college game that tight ends have a ton of production in the passing game, unless they're, these jokers or these move tight ends like a Dalton Kincaid. Even like looking back at like, a guy like George Kittle. Like at Iowa, Iowa's got a great lineage of tight ends recently, Hawkinson, Kittle, Noah Fant. But like those two guys that I just mentioned were not big production guys in the passing game.
Right.
But Noah Fant was, because Noah Fant was used as a receiver.
Right.
And Laporta, who I love, plays for the Lions now, draft pick for the Lions. He was more of like a move tight end, not a hand in the dirt. Why? So I think a lot of it's the college game too. I mean, the spread offense doesn't use a wide tight end.
It's just changed it. But for my money, give me a tight end that can catch the ball and also be a hand in the dirt kind of guy. That can, that needs to be that extra tackle, needs to block, needs to help his quarterback's blind side, whatever it is. I want a tight end that can do a little bit of everything. I thought Mackey was one of those. I certainly thought guys like Ditka and Jackie Smith, you remember him?
Yeah.
Played for the old St. Louis Cardinals. Never forget the touchdown pass he dropped in what was that, Super Bowl 12 against the Pittsburgh Steelers? Oh my God!
Yeah.
But those were really good old school tight ends because they could do the catching and they could do the blocking.
Mark Bavaro.
Yeah, there's a good one that I
Bill. Don't get Bill started on Mark Bavaro.
I know. I just blitzed out on that one,
Yeah.
and I would tell you, hey, the Patriots had a pretty good one too.
Russ Francis.
Well, Russ All-World Francis, yeah,
Ben Coates is super underrated.
he is super underrated.
Ben Coates was like what the guys are today, but he was doing those types of things in the passing game in the 90s. And if he had played now, I think he would have been even better.
He would be, if he had played in this era, Ben Coates would be considered one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, he was. I mean, his athleticism and his ability after the catch to carry tacklers and things like that was next level. That was new for that era. I feel like he's one of the first guys that was really dynamic like that.
As long as we're talking tight ends here, since I kind of started us in that direction.
Claire must be thrilled right now.
I'm right.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Claire.
Yeah.
You're welcome. What are your thoughts on the current tight end situation, especially in light of what we saw with Pharaoh Brown coming in and basically, nuking everybody, including the Jets defense on his, big play?
There's a lot of positives. I think that, they ran the ball better this week just in general. I thought the interior offensive line and the offensive line blocked better.
Way better.
I thought Pharaoh Brown
Way
was a real factor. I loved the fullback wrinkles. I've been clamoring for them to get the fullback back in the offense since they got rid of the fullback. And now having a guy that can at least do that some of the time. He only did 6 times on Sunday, but it's better than nothing. And I do like Henry and Gesicki as receivers. I think their problem now is they have to play all 3 of them in that 13 jumbo package because each one of them does one thing well, but they don't all do like what you just were talking about. None of them do all of it well, right? So like Hunter Henry has got great rapport with Mac Jones. He's a good route runner, especially against zone. He's got great feel for the passing game, just great instincts.
He's got that wide receiver instinct for a tight end.
Yeah. Gesicki's an explosive player.
Yeah.
Gesicki can run, and then Pharaoh can block. But you don't have a guy that can run that has the feel for the game and can block.
Yeah.
So because of that, you're playing all 3 of them at the same time, which I think worked against the Jets because of the type of game that
we saw some
it was.
13 sets out there, didn't we?
16 of them, yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd see that, but we did.
Yeah. So like the positive spin is that they got the run game going. They hit the big play on the play action, so they had success with it in droves. The negative spin is, well, you have to play 13 because one guy's got to be able to block and one guy's got to be able to catch, and like, what I'm trying to say, like, there's just not. They don't have one guy that can do it all, so they have to get all 3 of them out there on the field and mix and match and make sure everybody's doing what they're good at and all that kind of stuff. So, in some respects, I think it's nice. They do have 3 tight ends that can play.
Yep.
It's just not exactly, they don't have. Obviously, nobody's going to be a Gronk, but they don't have a well-rounded tight end necessarily, which I think has put them in a little bit of a bind personnel-wise that they have to put all 3 of them in the game.
This week, sort of speaking of Gronk, this week started college basketball practice, with practices around the country. And I noticed this week that Rob Gronkowski had attended and worked out practice at Providence College.
Yeah.
And keep in mind now, he only played 3 years of football at Arizona.
Yeah.
But he's now. It made for great, shall I say, Twitter memes and TikTok posts and things like that this week, just to see him there working out with the Providence College black and white on. So
yeah, I know. I'm sure he's probably a very good basketball player based off of his size and his athleticism.
He could hit a corner jump shot.
Yeah,
he hit a corner jump. He was really good. He was really good from about 15, 16 feet in.
Do you know who has got an unbelievable jump shot? Is Brady.
I'm not surprised.
Brady's form is perfect. Like
Brady would be the quintessential shooting guard with his height and his length.
Yeah, his ability to shoot it. Like,
can you imagine?
Watch it. His form.
Can you imagine
is
Tom Brady on the front side of a 2-3 zone with those arms? Come on, man. How are you going to get by him? Right?
Well, I mean,
hey, can you imagine trying to drive the paint and have Rob Gronkowski waiting for you in the low block?
That would definitely be scary.
I'm backing the hell right out of there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, all right. We love to digress early in the program. Hey, coming up on the show, Greg Bedard from Boston Sports Journal is going to join us with his thoughts on where the Patriots stand going into Week 4 and some slight improvements, which Evan and I will get into in a couple of moments. Todd Archer covers the Dallas Cowboys for ESPN and ESPN.com. He's going to join us on the show, as will Russell Baxter, the pro football guru himself, on Week 4 around the National Football League. A win is a win is a win. Are you in that category?
In this instance, yeah, because they were 0-2 and they absolutely had to win.
Have it.
If we're talking about a different circumstance going in, then winning ugly, so to speak, is whatever. But I think what ultimately it comes down to, and we've been taking some heat on the other show because of how negative we've been on Tuesdays about these games and things like that. And I think where there was a lot of good things that I kind of just hit on the tight ends. The run blocking I thought was significantly better in this game, especially in the second half.
I almost thought it was night and day.
Yeah.
I mean, because Trent Brown came in to anchor the left side.
Yep.
Lowe did not. He didn't embarrass himself certainly at right tackle.
Yep.
And there are a couple of I thought, and I don't look at it the all 22 as thoroughly as you do, but I do look at some of the clips and the replays just to see the tendencies and to have something intelligent to talk about on Wednesdays, of course. But other than a couple of guard spots, I actually thought that was clearly their best overall line. And if you believe in things like Pro Football Focus grades, which I don't really subscribe to, because I think their system of grading is a little skewed, let's say. But they had Brown as the number 1 rated tackle in the NFL this last week.
Yeah, his game was tremendous. He was clean sheet and pass protection and like playing with his food at sometimes. Like he was dominant in pass protection. And he was a little streaky in the run game, but the reps that he did have that were good were dominant. Like double teams, just pushing guys 6-7 yards off the ball type of reps. So that was one of his better games I've ever seen him play.
Okay, because of that then, why did we still see Ramondre Stevenson struggle with the ball? Yeah,
I think that this is like a number one question for everybody, and everybody likes Ramondre and the year he had last year. I'm not really concerned about Ramondre. I think that there's a lot of like tendency and like situational elements to it that you see throughout the course of a game where when Ramondre's in the game defensively, that's the guy, right? Like you would talk.
They know that he's going to get it one way or the other.
Yeah, and I just think that exactly. And when we talk a lot about guys that like opponents circle on the Patriots roster, right? Mike Lombardi refers to them often as Tuesday players. Like, who's the guy that when you get in the game plan meeting, the head coach comes to you and says, how are we going to slow down Micah Parsons? Like, how are we going to slow down CeeDee Lamb? And on the Patriots offense, even though you can have a big picture discussion about the fact that they don't really have that guy, the guy is Ramondre. Like, that's the closest thing that they have to it is Ramondre Stevenson. So I think when he's in the game, teams are doing some different things with their front mechanics, slanting, stunting, run blitzing, like all those types of things to get in the backfield and create disruption and close down holes and things like that. And the run game becomes a real focus when Ramondre Stevenson is on the field for the defense. And they have a plan coming into the game of how exactly we are going to stop Ramondre Stevenson. So when I look at Zeke's carries and how defenses kind of play against them and the holes that are available and all that stuff, and I look at Ramondre's carries, there's a lot to me. And it's not making excuses for Ramondre. It's just trying to tell you what I see. I see a lot more space for Zeke than I do for Ramondre.
That? Why would that even be possible? Because they know Zeke's going to get the ball too if he's in there.
I think that there's an element of just that's the focus of the game plan. If this is how we're going to...
This is how we beat the Patriots.
Right.
First and foremost, slow down, stop Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah.
Second, put pressure on Mac Jones.
Right.
Third, we don't really need safety help over the top with any of the receivers.
Yeah.
Make sure the tight ends don't beat you deep. Hello, Jets.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Pharaoh Brown did that.
Right.
Cost him the game.
Right. That's my read on it. Miami, and I thought Bill O'Brien was really candid about this in between the Miami game and this Jets game. And he talked about how they felt like they didn't game plan the Dolphins' defensive front very well. And I think the big thing that he was hinting at was line movement, right? Like stunting, slanting, like things like that teams do to combat run plays, mostly. And I think we think of stunts as just like a pass rush thing, but you can stunt against the run, right? Like you can slant guys, you can twist guys, things like that cause disruption to the blocking schemes in the run game as well. And so there was a lot of that going on too, I think, in the Miami game specifically. So I think it'll come for Ramondre. I mean, if you want to be concerned just because that's the market we're in and everybody's got to get all up in arms, the wear and tear of last year and then the slow ramp up this year might be a factor. So in that respect,
is that one of the reasons why they gave him less reps earlier this
yeah,
summer?
And I do wonder if that's contributing to the slow start now. Not because he's worn down still, but because
he's just not catching up to speed.
Yeah. Right. And so maybe by Halloween, that
Okay.
changes,
Okay.
or maybe it's even sooner. Like I said, I'm not super concerned about Ramondre.
Are you a little bit like me that you're a little anxious to see how Ezekiel Elliott treats his return to Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Cardinals ran all over this Dallas team last week, and we talked about this on PU a little bit. There's obviously the potential that Dan Quinn and the Cowboys defense overcorrects their run game mistakes from the week before, has a completely different game plan, completely different mentality to stopping the run, and is a different football team in that regard. But the stats tell you that the Cardinals ran for over 7 yards a carry for 200 yards plus against this team last week. So in some respects, yeah, the Cowboys might be more planned and more tightened up in the run game, buttoned up in the run game. But at the same time, I do think that you need to come into this game and see what they got in the run game. Mm-hmm. And, the run defense in general, we can get into, I just kind of tried to explain some of the front mechanics of run defense that teams use, run blitzes and things like that. But in general, it's a mentality. Both sides of the football. You either need to want to be a physical team to run the football or stop the run, or you don't.
Didn't you find that Arizona kind of just took it right at Micah Parsons in an effort to sort of disengage him?
Yeah, so I thought that they had a really well orchestrated plan of how to run the football. That was not a let's just get hat on a hat and blow them off the ball type of game. That was a well thought out game plan, and schematically, I really had a lot of fun watching the Cardinals run game from Sunday. They were cool. They did some cool things, and the main ingredient was they knew that Micah Parsons wants to get vertical up the field. He wants to shoot gaps. He wants to knife into gaps because he wants to make plays in the backfield, right? Whether it's rushing the passer.
He wants to make the big play.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy he is.
He wants a TFL every single time to hand the football off.
Yeah, right.
So what they did, the Cardinals...
Tackle for loss, for anybody that's wondering what the hell TFL is.
I thank you. The Parsons... they ran right at him. But what they did, they didn't run right at him. They invited him up the field, or they invited him into a gap, and then
Yeah.
So
right by him.
So they did a lot of.
It looked like in a lot of plays that I saw anyway.
Yeah.
It looked like he was a college freshman learning that you can't go upfield. You got to be contained in your rush.
Yeah.
And he forgot that, and so he's bypassed. This is the biggest problem that Chase Winovich had when he was here at linebacker in New England. He was always overplaying the rush, and guys were blowing by him the other way. He couldn't make a play.
Yeah. So the question is, this is a 4-3 base defense in Dallas. They don't run a 3-4, which, as great as Parsons is, I think he's a 3-4 outside linebacker. I think that's his but that's besides the point. The point is that he plays a lot of inline defensive end. Like, he has to play with his hand in the dirt.
Yeah, right.
Because that's the system, and he does it at like 245, 250. So
He's light.
He's light. He's as explosive as a player as they'll face all year. Maybe in the entire history of the NFL.
There's no doubt that the guy is going to be, a defensive MVP candidate. There's no doubt.
100%.
He's got unbelievable talent. But can you neutralize that talent? Arizona proved you could.
Yeah, so the Arizona did it with their zone run game where, they ran a lot of like linebacker split flow where like they had the line blocking one direction, but the play was actually hitting in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So he's flying up the field to the left, and the point of attack is actually to the right. And the Patriots that's not what they major in, right? Like, they don't major in a lot of zone or a lot of that kind of stuff.
No, they don't.
But what you can do is you can draw play, you can trap or influence wham, where like you're begging them, like, just come up the field. And then what they're going to do is they're going to hit him from different angles, right? So they'll invite him up the field because the guy over him isn't going to necessarily hit him, but then the guy comes from the side and ear holes him, right? And that is how you kind of can do it in the Patriots' way of doing things instead of the Cardinals' way of doing things.
That's one thing I think that certainly we can look for, and I think that they'll try to make the Cowboys pay with Ezekiel Elliott. I think the Patriots understand that Zeke wants to make sure that the Cowboys know, hey, look what you gave up on a little bit too early.
Yeah, and I think that he's a good back for these types of schemes because he is a guy that's decisive and gets downhill and runs with a head of steam and isn't someone that has ever really been a dancer in the backfield. So hit the hole, hit it hard, and let Micah Parsons just run up the field. Like that's what the Cardinals did, is hopefully the Patriots can have the same success.
Well, the two other key things I think about it, trying to score here, because I think the Patriots will have some success in slowing the Cowboys down. I do. I like the way the Patriots defense is starting to mold into shape. Christian Gonzalez, Jabril Peppers, I thought was outstanding again this last week. I think the back end is set. I think the linebacking core is adequate. They lost some depth in the front with Daniel Akwale's IR this week, but at the same time, fortunately, that's one area of the team where the Patriots have a good amount of quality depth right now, and that's in the defensive front. So right now, no harm, no foul. And I think that they can play the Cowboys to that 20 to 24 point range, and they should be able to do that. The question is, can the Patriots offense score enough to beat Dallas?
Yeah.
They couldn't do that against Miami. They couldn't do that against Philadelphia. Can they do that against the Cowboys? They've got to figure out a way to go over the top, whether or not that's, going with more play action, whether or not it's, trying to, connect 20-plus yards downfield, which, I think Mac and even, ironically, I saw this week, Joe Burrow are like statistically the worst in the NFL in going over the top 20-plus yards. I'm like, Joe Burrow? Really?
Yeah, always hurt.
Yeah. So, but that's what the Patriots need to continue to work on to be able to keep defenses honest.
Yeah.
And Dallas lost a big part of their secondary.
Yeah.
And, so and I've always liked Leighton Vander Esch. To me, I think he's a guy that has a lot of coverage ability. He's a kind of linebacker I've always thought that the Patriots needed because he was equally adept at stopping the run as well as covering guys coming out of the backfield or taking on the tight end coming off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I agree.
That is a big factor. You got to think Parsons. You got a good Cowboys defensive front. Vander Esch is waiting in the wings somewhere to make a play. You got to figure out a way to burn the Cowboys over the top since they're a little wounded back there.
Yeah, so first game, admittedly, they'll have a full week of practice with the group now that without Trayvon Diggs, and I'm sure they'll fix some things that they did wrong in that Cardinals game. But there was 2 or 3 plays that were just wide open coverage busts against the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it stems from the fact that they have a couple guys that have moved around now because Trayvon Diggs is gone. Stephon Gilmore just got there, right? This is his first year with Dallas, so he doesn't have a ton of experience in the system. There's just a lot of moving parts and new faces and guys that haven't played a lot of football together. So on the one hand, even though you can sit there and say the Patriots don't really have a number one receiver that can take advantage of a mismatch now that Trayvon Diggs isn't out there, right? Like, it's not like it's the opposite where CeeDee Lamb can now feast on a Sean Wade, right? Like, the Patriots don't have that luxury. But what I think Bill O'Brien will do is he will test the coverage rules in the back end. Like, okay, for example, if we're 3-by-1 and then we run a switch release pattern where we go like this, like who has who, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if we're in a
But
bunch,
you'll be able to tell really fast.
yeah, yeah,
On a switch route like that,
Yeah.
hey, believe me, you'll find that out really quick.
yeah. On week one, I think a lot of the cool schematic stuff the Patriots did were out of those bunches, right? The three receiver bunches.
Yeah.
So there's a couple different ways that teams usually cover bunches. One of them is the easiest way, which is just to lock into receivers and level yourself off so you avoid being run into. The other way is what a lot of teams do, is called box principles, where like I have first in, you have first out, you have second in, I have second out, that sort of thing. But when you have, if you're in a box rule situation out of a bunch, and you have 3 or 4 guys that have only really played one game together, and now all of a sudden the Patriots are doing Bill O'Brien's, scheming out of this, who has who, right?
It'd be interesting to see how they make those selections.
Yeah, and I think that's this type of mental stuff that the Patriots will try to put the Cowboys secondary through. So, yeah, they can't out-personnel or out-talent them still, but they might be able to out-fox them a little bit now that Trayvon Diggs is there.
And I think that's the key to winning the game. You're right. They're not going to out-personnel Dallas. Dallas has some of the best personnel, top to bottom, of any team in the league. Pretty easy to say that when you look at who they have on their roster. But at the same time, I think the Patriots have the smarts in this particular regard. And the other matchup I'm looking forward to, besides Ezekiel Elliott against the Dallas defense, I want to see Christian Gonzalez and CeeDee Lamb match up.
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy, I know, even said earlier today, and it was kind of funny because I'm sure Bill told him, right? That, CeeDee Lamb's going to see Christian Gonzalez. Well, I think on occasion, yeah, but exclusively, I'd be stunned if that happened.
Yeah, so I think it'll happen a lot. I mean, granted, it's against Zach Wilson, so take that with a grain of salt, but he covered Garrett Wilson on over half of Garrett Wilson's routes. I think it was like 60-something% of Garrett Wilson's routes. So he definitely has taken
You probably
a lot.
see that and then some, maybe it's CeeDee Lamb, but it won't be every route, I don't think.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with the Cowboys offense, and I'm on the Patriots this week. I think the Patriots are going to win this game. The reason why I feel like the Patriots are going to win this game is because Mike McCarthy has publicly pledged that they're going to run the ball more in Dallas. He fired Kellen Moore because he said, quote, Kellen Moore wants to light up the scoreboard. and he said, I personally, Mike McCarthy, want to rest my defense. I want to run the ball. I want to control the clock, control possession. So no team in the NFL runs more plays per drive than the Dallas Cowboys. They run almost 8 plays per drive. Their scoring drives last week were all over 10 plays against Arizona. So they want to ground and pound. That's the type of offense that they are now.
Interesting.
And the benefit of that for the Patriots is that the score shouldn't get out of hand if that's the way that Dallas is going to play. Right? You don't score.
No, you're probably staying within at least a score, maybe 2, the entire game, even if you fall behind quickly. And of course, the one thing that I thought really helped the Patriots this last week was not playing from behind against the Jets.
Yeah. So the Cowboys are shortening games.
Yeah.
Just like the Patriots are trying
to
do
shorten
too.
games too.
So if you have 2 teams that both want to run the ball and both want to play with the football and shorten games and play from ahead and all that kind of stuff, that script does not tell me that this game is going to be like the one we saw in 2021 when both teams are going up and down the field.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think the Patriots can win that kind of game. Maybe I'm a homer, but I think they can.
I think that's the only kind of game they can win.
Right.
I mean, until we can see that the offense is capable of something other than what we've seen for the first 3 weeks, look, you're going to have to try to win the game 20-17.
Yeah.
That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks, Ev.
Ask Greg about Cole Strange for me.
Cole Strange?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll do that. Thanks, Evan Lazar. Welcome in Greg Bedard from Boston Sports Journal. All right, I got to ask Evan's question. What about Cole Strange, Greg?
Yeah, well, I think that was a leading question by the prosecution.
He says it's a leading question by the prosecution. He's just laughing, that's all.
I would say that, look, I don't know how much is injury-related because we saw him go out for a while very early in camp.
Yeah.
But so far what he's put on film compared to what he put on film last year, he's struggling. And I think that Antonio Mafi, I think, is a real alternative to starting at left guard for this team and might make them better in the short term. And I think they got to think about, if it is injury related, maybe sitting Cole for a while to make sure he gets fully healthy, because right now he's a liability for this team, and I don't think they can afford that up front.
Yeah, I think we saw where he's been whipped pretty badly in a couple of snaps, since he's even been in there, and I think it was who was it this week? One of the linemen, and I forget who it was that was interviewed, but basically said, yeah, he's really struggled since he got hurt on the first day of camp. He's tried hard to get back, and he just really hasn't gotten back healthy. I'm sort of paraphrasing here. Didn't somebody say that this week? One of the line.
That sounds familiar.
And David Andrews, I think, said that. Yeah.
That would be true. It's just the problem is that a lot of the film and look, Quinton Williams is one of the best in the league. Everybody's going to struggle against him.
Sure.
But he's having a lot of leverage issues at that position. His center of gravity seems to be higher than a lot of guys. Certainly Michael Wenu. Mafi is built low to the ground, and that position it's more beneficial to be a little bit built more low to the ground. And Cole's just got to figure out how to use his leverage better. But if I were the Patriots, I would think about sitting him, going with Mafi, and seeing what that looks like.
Well, what did you think of Antonio Mafi then in getting that repeated time in front? I mean, did he handle himself well enough to where the Patriots can be relatively certain that they don't have to do things differently because they've got a rookie lineman in a guard?
Yeah, I would say with the amount of reps that he got during the summer, and he was almost exclusively at left guard all summer, the preseason. I think he played about 26, 28 snaps in relief of Cole Strange on Sunday. I only had him for one minus play in the game. He gave up a run stuff, which is, a much better rate than Cole was doing in his about 45 snaps in that game. I wouldn't say you're certainly losing something by going with somebody like Mafi, because Cole Strange is unquestionably a better athlete and could do things running down the field and getting to the second level that Mafi can't do because he's not that type of player. But I think just in terms of pass protection, limiting negative plays, I think that Mafi might be the best alternative right now.
I know, Greg, that you wrote about this earlier this week on the website, Boston Sports Journal, but I wonder if you might kind of fill us in your own words here, what you really think is kind of holding this offense back at this stage, and is it improving enough to where you can see it can actually make a difference between winning more often later this season?
Well, let's start with the positives. I think that considering, and you always have to take this into account, positive and negative. And people, get ruffled when you say, well, it's hard to tell how good that was because the defense wasn't very good. Well, there's another side to the coin of that, is that, the offense wasn't highly productive against the Jets, but you have to take into account that's one of the best defenses in the league. I mean, they are really good, especially up front.
Yeah.
And I think that what I saw out of the Patriots progressively, I saw a team in terms of their offensive line start to get a lot more push in the running game that opened up a little bit more play action than we've seen in the first couple games. And that's really where this team's going to need to play, because let's face it, they're not dynamic anywhere else, on the offensive football field. To get to your point about the passing offense, I mean, I just don't think they've figured out exactly what role everybody needs to play, and I don't think everybody's on the same page. Like, the 2 third-down throws late from Mack to Juju Smith-Schuster, I think if that's Jacoby Myers and somebody that Mac Jones has a lot of history with and a lot of practice time with, and I do think that's an issue with Juju. I don't know how much he's practicing. You can see that, on the field and from people I've talked to in the organization. Those third downs should be pretty easy back shoulder completions the way Mac threw them, but with Juju, they're not hitting. And, but should he even be put in that position to be outside the numbers and winning against guys? Is that really who he is? I don't think it is. I think he's more of a underneath zone yards after the catch guy, and they're using him in a different way. So I think they need to figure out what each guy does well, what they don't do well, and sort of carve out some roles where everybody knows, okay, this is what I need to do on each play.
And I think the thing that's disconcerting about that to me is that shouldn't they have figured this out, over the summer? I mean, what he can do best. I mean, I realize they're babying him along somewhat because of the alleged wink, know what I mean, knee problem that Juju has. But frankly, I just there's not a lot there, and I've always seen him be better underneath coverage as opposed to going to the sideline. Even when he was in certainly when he was at Pittsburgh, but even when he was at Kansas City, and it just seems to me they're using him wrong. On top of the fact that he's probably missing a step, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah, I would say that's fair to say, John. And I do think, when you talk about shouldn't they be past this by now, in some respects, yes. I do think the Tyquan Thornton injury and taking out that vertical element, I think has caused them to move some pieces around, and that's been part of the issue. But I also think that, Juju, hasn't really practiced a ton from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
that's correct.
I think that's been an issue.
Yeah, it is an issue. And it's a shame to say it, but I mean, and I don't like to ever call anybody the B word, bust. I really don't, because I think a lot of times it's unfair, and unless you've ever thrown on the pads and, put on the jockstrap at the NFL level, you don't know. But at the same time, I'm having to say, wow, this is a disappointment. And I think time is running out on him to try to, make a corrective move here.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. And you're talking about, I know the coaching staff was very high on him and what his role was going to be this year. And you're just hoping that he gets past this injury-wise. But I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Yeah. All right. So Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal is here. I want to flip it to the other side because, quite frankly, I think the defense seems to be coming back into a mold that might have even surpassed what we thought it could be before this season got started. Christian Gonzalez, look, I said this a couple of weeks ago, and I managed to probably talk about it every week, and I know you've written about it. You've talked about it on your own pod, and you do a lot of appearances with Felger and Maz on 98.5 in Boston, and it's can't miss radio. But I would tell you that I get the impression here that even though the Patriots should have taken an offensive lineman somewhere, maybe even in the first round, but certainly somewhere higher than they ended up taking him, the fact that Christian Gonzalez fell to them is a lightning bolt from the sky, because this guy can be maybe one of the best to have put on a Patriots uniform and play that position. To me, corner is the toughest position to play in the NFL. And reason that it's tougher to me than quarterback, admittedly quarterback's got a lot of decision-making to do here, but corner's tougher because you got to do everything running backwards.
Well, I mean, I will definitely argue with quarterback being easier than cornerback. I will definitely argue with that.
I don't know if it's easier. It's different. But I would argue for corner being intrinsically more difficult just because of the impossible things you're asked to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a difficult position, and I think those guys are starting to get paid for that reason.
Yep.
And I think it's one of the elite positions that you need to have in this league to be successful. And the Patriots, since Stephon Gilmore, haven't had that. And there's no question that Christian, to this point in time, has been extremely impressive on film. I mean, I'm not going to get into what did he do against how much was he responsible for A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill and Garrett Wilson, but there's no question that the skills that his coverage skills that he puts on film are real. And you just think of the possibilities down the line of what he can do for this team if he keeps following this successful path. I mean, it's been very impressive. It makes the defense a lot better. The defense is playing with a lot of confidence. Their mental mistakes are very few, which you would figure with a veteran group that's been together for a while. And they certainly have a lot of potential to carry this team to even more victories than maybe we thought before the season.
Now, for the Patriots really to realize their full potential, do they need one, two, or all three of the Jones boys back on the active roster?
That would certainly help. I mean, Jack's a very good cover guy. Marcus, not sure how much of a role he was going to have this year on defense, but he obviously helps with depth issues and no offense to Sean Wade because I'm sure he tries very hard, but he just isn't all that talented, and you'd rather him not be on the field. So but if the Patriots keep rushing the passer like they have, it's not going to matter who they have. playing at cornerback because the pass rush has been that good in the first couple weeks.
Okay, so Dallas this weekend. Dallas has got to be hurting a little bit for that performance at Arizona this past weekend. Is this a winnable game for the Patriots in your estimation?
I think so. I mean, I would rather have the Cowboys fat and happy after another big victory.
Yeah, me too.
Feeling themselves. And I do think that the Cardinals, the way they were able to run the ball, about 7 yards per carry, the way they limited Dallas in the red zone, I think that the Cardinals showed the Cowboys a lot of their weak points. And I'm sure Mike McCarthy, who I covered for a long time in Green Bay, is going to be all over the film and looking at that and making sure that doesn't happen again. Maybe that closes up some of the loopholes that the Patriots were looking to exploit in their game. But, I don't think – I think that the Cowboys they have some injuries on their offensive line, which isn't good. They lost their top cornerback, Diggs, for the season with an ACL injury. I don't think they're overly talented on offense if you take care of CeeDee Lamb. So, I do think this is the type of game that is in the Patriots' wheelhouse.
Final question then for you. What is the matchup you're looking forward to most for Sunday?
Well, anybody against Micah Parsons. I mean, Micah Parsons, I know Bill wouldn't go there today. And
he wanted to go Lawrence Taylor, didn't he? He wanted to.
Yeah, he's the closest thing I've seen to Lawrence Taylor since Lawrence Taylor. And he is very early in his career, and Bill doesn't want to entertain it until, Micah's in the league for about a decade. But, he's that good. If the Patriots have a sound plan and limit, you're not going to totally eliminate him, but eliminate Micah from making too many negative plays, forcing turnovers, anything like that. If they can limit Micah Parsons, and he'll line up all over the place, so it's tough to say, one guy only. Maybe it's Zeke in pass protection against Micah Parsons, his former teammate. That is the matchup to watch. If the Patriots can limit Micah Parsons' impression on this game, then they have a good chance to win.
Yeah, Evan likes him. I can't believe it because a week ago I didn't think there was a snowball's chance in hell. I think at the very least the snowball can stay frozen for at least a little while on Sunday.
Yeah, if they can run the ball, if they can run the ball like they showed against the Jets, and do that against a Dallas team that got run over last week, I think that really opens up a lot more in the passing game, and that's sort of the next. We saw the first step that they needed to take for the offense was getting a little movement in the running game, cohesion on the offensive line. That was good. They got under center, some play action passes. If they can just take that to another level against Dallas, then they might have an upset.
And they still got to eliminate mistakes. They can't have, the drive-killing holds, or they can't put the football on the ground, or Mac can't throw a dumb pass that gets picked off, and especially a pick six. I mean, they still have to avoid that because the Cowboys are at the top of the NFL in giveaway takeaway. They've got that going for them. The Patriots are down around, 20th? They're like -2 on the year. That's a big factor, I think, in the game as well, especially when you're playing at Dallas where the Cowboys have had a lot of success recently.
Yeah, no question. I mean, they are a tough team. They're going to be grumpy after the last game, which I don't love. But this is the Patriots type of game. It's their type of matchup. It's more of a heavyweight bout than you have to worry about too much quickness or anything like that. So, I do think that the Patriots have a reasonably good chance at pulling an upset this week.
Greg, I appreciate the time. Thanks. Always good to talk to you.
Anytime, bud.
You got it. Greg Bedard, Boston Sports Journal, at Greg A. Bedard. Bedard is how he spells the last name. That's where you get him on the X post follow, Twitter, whatever. I'll never get used to that. And I will, even if it's X for the next 50 years, I'm still going to call it Twitter. It just makes more sense. Sorry, Elon. But you're not cutting me in, so, I'm going to cut you out. 855-PATS-500 is the toll-free telephone number, 855-PATS-500. Web radio at patriots.com. If you got some thoughts on the matchup, you want to predict the score, fire away. You can also do so on X at JR Broadcaster. That's also my IG handle in case anybody wants to know. See how I handled that one? Wow, at JR Broadcaster on Instagram. And my Facebook page as well. Todd Archer, ESPN Dallas Cowboys reporter, is going to join us at about 3:45 Eastern time today. Right, so he's going to get us late in the show. Russell will come up a little before 3:30. Can we see if Russell can scooch a little bit? See if he minds it, if he's at least in his office at home, which is where I know he normally is around this time. So we'll see if Russell will come in and do that. So in the meantime, it's me and it's you and whatever you got about what you saw against the Jets and whatever you're hoping to see against the Dallas Cowboys this weekend or anything else NFL related. 855-PATS-500. Wait. No? Elvis has left the building? No. Eldred has entered the building. Hey, Eldred, you're going to lead us off. What's up, buddy? Yeah!
Hey, Mr. Legend, how you doing?
Are you sitting? Or are you driving right now? Are you just standing
I'm
still?
driving. Everybody looked at me when I blow the horn.
I love it. I love it. And you get all the
like
kids.
to,
You get all the
but
kids in
look
the all the kids in the back windows start pulling the chain to get you to do it again.
Yeah, majority of them do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, especially even when on the school bus.
Oh my God! Yeah, right. Anybody, Eldred? If you don't blow the horn, anybody flip you off?
No, they flip me off sometimes when I do blow the horn.
Now, if they just
They
knew,
that deal for some reason.
but if they knew you were Eldred from North Carolina, I guarantee you they wouldn't do that.
Well, they might, but like I said,
Nah.
I think it's a truck driver just blowing that damn stuff. Someone flicked off or whatever.
Yeah,
you know.
I know.
But I flick back.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'd consider that almost an honor. Love you, buddy. What's going on today? What's on your mind?
What's on my mind?
Yeah.
This game, like I told you before, majority of my family are Cowboy fans. My
Right,
son was
yeah.
no bigger than my dad.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Big Tom Landry follower. And matter of fact, when we buried him 5 years ago, we got a cat put a star, and I got him a suit and put a cowboy hat on his head. But that's how we carried him out.
Okay.
Biggest
Yeah.
Cowboy fan I ever known in my life.
My granddad was
Good,
my
bad,
my
whatever.
grandfather was similar. I remember our Sundays at home when I was a teenager, younger, kid and teenager growing up. Our Sundays entirely revolved around the Dallas Cowboys. We couldn't even have Sunday dinner unless we planned it around the Cowboy game because my granddad had to sit at front and center in his easy chair watching the Cowboys, and that was it. And that's how I really got to be a football fan, was through what my granddad did watching the Cowboys. I remember that succinctly back in the 1960s when the Cowboys were playing the Green Bay Packers in the Ice Bowl in '67, and then they were a part of some of those early 1970s teams, the one that lost to the Baltimore Colts in the Super Bowl. And so I get where you're coming from the family perspective.
Especially against the Steelers.
Yeah.
And my brother, he was the ring culprit. He's a big Steeler fan ever since he was a kid because everybody root for the Cowboys. He said, "Nah, bump the Cowboys. You want the Steelers." So he's a Steelers fan ever since.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So now I'm the punch in of the joke. When we had Brady and we kept beating him every time we played him, they was the punch in.
Yeah.
So now they want me to come over, have dinner,
And then they want to lay
watch
into
the
you.
game.
Yeah, and they want to
Right,
kill you,
lay
right?
into it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Are you going to give them the pleasure of your presence?
Yeah, because I ain't going to chicken out like they did on me a couple times. But I'm going to show my manhood and put my Tom Brady jersey on my hat, just go on over there.
All right, well then make sure you eat plenty of food and you drink plenty of. In fact, I'd wipe the fridge out, okay? I'd wipe the damn fridge out. And then when the Patriots win the game, I'd make sure that I leave a loud belch right behind before you exit stage left.
Yep.
How do you like that?
I told you so.
Yeah, it's exactly.
I told you so.
Right.
But
Right. Yep.
it's going to be a tall task, with us. But I don't know.
Well, look. First of all, I'm gonna kind of go to some of your pet arguments here. The secondary is not a secondary right now. Christian Gonzalez, even you got to admit he's got the makings of something special. And I know he's only played 4 games of his NFL career, but everything we've seen thus far, man, dude seems to have the athleticism to be able to stick with the guys who are the preeminent receivers in this game. There are going to be days that he gets beat. CeeDee Lamb could be one of those guys this weekend because Lamb also has quite a bit of talent. But I really like what we've seen thus far. I think the Patriots actually, for the first time, Eldred, in Oh, gosh. Certainly, we've been talking about this for, the last 6, 7, maybe even 10 years, that the Patriots defense had to become faster, had to become quicker. They needed linebackers that weren't thumpers but movers, and I think they actually have some of those. And even Juwan Bentley has learned how to do that a little bit.
I think so, too. But remember, I wanted Christian Gonzalez, even though I wanted Quentin Williams first. But Christian, I said, we had a choice. I'd rather get the corner than the wide receiver. I'm happy with him, And like I said, I take my lumps with him all through the season. But next year, he's going to be a beast next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's going to be a beast next year.
He will. He will be. He will be. And look, and next year's next year. Look. We're 4 weeks through. We're 3 weeks through the current season, and a week ago, Eldred, everybody was already ready to put dirt on these guys. Now, even though it was a relatively lackluster ugly game, a game that, they were actually lucky to win. If Randall Cobb had gotten lucky and come up with that Hail Mary catch, this would be a different universe in which we live in today. But fortunately for the Patriots, it didn't go that way. They did just enough to win. But now you need to see this team take the next step. You need to see them not only compete, you need to see them get ahead. You need to see them learn how to play with a lead, which they did a little bit this last week, sure. But you also need to see them go over the top and score a little bit. And, you need to see this defense play against somebody other than Zach Wilson.
Exactly. And Dak is a pretty good matchup this year.
Yeah, I think Dak is a very good matchup because Dak has got a good enough arm. He's certainly nimble enough of foot. I like Dak Prescott. I just think that the Cowboys have they've schemed wrongly. Where they've been really good the last few years offensively, I think. They hadn't been strong enough defensively. Now that they appear to be better defensively, they've had injuries bite into that, and they've changed their offensive philosophy, as Evan Lazar was just talking about, because they want to ground and pound you now, and Mike McCarthy's calling the plays because they let go of Kellen Moore. So they no longer want to wing it down the field. They want to try to outpossess you and pound you into submission. Frankly, I think that kind of plays into New England's hands.
I think so, too. But the only thing I'm worried about is our offense. Defensive-wise, on our defense, I think we're holding about 20, 24, 26 at the most. I'm just worried about our offense scoring.
Well, you're going to have to hold Dallas to 24. If you can hold Dallas to 24 or less, you got a chance to win the game. Because I'm not convinced, even if the offense takes a step in the right direction, I'm still not convinced until I see it that they can score more than 24. I really don't know this, and I'm not being funny or facetious or anything else. I'm being honest. Until
that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, and so that's why this team, when you say, hey, the defense has got to win games, you damn straight it does. It has to keep them in games. Now, the Patriots might be able to score a little bit more, but then they're going to rely on the defense to do some scoring for them like they did last year. And they had a worse offense a year ago. Now we're not seeing the scoring, at least yet, early from this defense, although they did get the safety, this last week against Wilson in the secondary. Against the Patriots, because Matt Judon sacked him in the end zone, so they got the safety out of it. But I'm talking about a pick six. I'm talking about a fumble that gives them a short field and in red zone possession where they can get into the end zone. And I want to see the Patriots. They need to pull off a 10, 12-play drive against the Cowboy defense, because then the Cowboy offense is going to have a bit more sense of urgency, I think, to get down the field if they're playing from behind, and that's not the way Mike McCarthy wants to play based on what I've seen the first 3 weeks of this year.
Yes. That sounds like a good game plan, but we got good corners too, but they also got good receivers. Even though Lambs is the man, Gallup, I don't know what's wrong with Gallup. Gallup, sometimes he's up, sometimes he's down. And the other guy, and the tight end is new, but he's catching on a little bit.
Yeah.
And they do get 3 back.
Yeah.
Including Vaughn.
Yeah.
And so that's, a little bit more that I'm willing to chew on. Because that's what my family keeps shooting about. Oh, we got our butt whoop Sunday, but y'all going to turn around and get the same butt whooping that we got. I'm like, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Right.
So I told him, I said, I'm going to go with my boys. This way, you got a score? I said, nope, I don't have a score. But I'm still going to go down with the Patriots fighting. But I'm kind of iffy. But like I said,
I know.
They go down, I'm with it.
I'm iffy
but
too.
If they don't, I'm iffy.
Yeah, I'm iffy right with you. I'm iffy right with you.
They were good the first 2 weeks. The Cowboys, the good first till they ran into them darn Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that guy did, because I watched that game too.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talking about eye candy, where every time I ain't never seen so many emotion, this direction, this and that, and they was lost. I mean, the linebackers and the corners didn't move on a couple of them things, and they was lost.
Yeah.
And if we could do that, that's even better. But them guys got speed too. We got speed in the running backs part, but we got no speed at the receiver end.
Yep.
That's what's bugging me.
Well, yeah, and the speed that they have at the receiver end isn't healthy like it should be, and I think that's a big factor why the Patriots are having trouble on offense, because they're not spreading teams thin. And I know you've said this ever since I've probably known you. The Patriots need somehow, some way to stretch the field and make that underneath side, make that underneath side a little softer. Yep. That's where a guy like Julian Edelman really, had success. Wes Welker had success, and Juju is got all these apparent injury problems that are going on, which are wink wink left unsaid. But the middle of the field's all muddy, and the reason it's muddy is because the Patriots don't have the ability to stretch it and get somebody out there worth a darn. So it's kind of conspiring against them right now.
Yep. See, I've been saying that for 15 years. Y'all was knocking me for 15 years.
No. No. Marine, do we knock Eldred at all? No.
Yes, you did.
No, we don't.
Years.
No. No.
Eldred, we don't need that. We got it. Yeah, we had the greatest quarterback in the league then. We don't have him no more. And I even told you back then, even the greatest need some help every now and then. Just think.
Yeah.
Just think. When Cooper left the Raiders and Brady was here, I think Brady would have made a pitch, and I was hoping we did it too. I did it on the radio. Bill didn't do it. Just think if he had Cooper or Diggs, they'll be winning some more during Super Bowls and probably won one more before he retired last year.
Maybe.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, maybe.
Because he never had a horse.
Maybe.
Except for Moss and Stallworth that year, 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill ran away from it and stayed away from it. And that's his big downfall. Because he's the one that started those three wide receivers in the tight end.
Yeah.
And, in 2007 with that. So, but that's Bill.
You know what we need to do, Eldred? Maybe in the off season,
yes,
we need to have me and you host a Bill Belichick Sucks Because show.
Oh, I can give it. Hey, you got more than 3 hours?
Wow. Oh, my God. Well, that's what I like about you. You don't mince words, dude. You really don't. Hey.
Those are straightforward.
I know. Well, you keep going straight forward. No backing up. No beep, 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 backing up the truck today, okay?
Okay. I can back real good at the truck, though.
Yeah, I know. I bet you can. No, but I want you to just flatten those suckers.
Okay. All right. So you have a good one, Mr. Legend.
Yeah. You too, buddy. Be safe out there.
All right.
Eldred in North Carolina. Man alive. He's a hoot. 855-PATS-500. Sean in Vancouver. Thanks for hanging on, Sean.
How about them Cowboys?
Listen,
your old team, right?
it is. One of my favorite things is to hear that old Jimmy Johnson recording. How about them Cowboys? I like that. Do we have that drop?
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah. There we go. I thought we probably still had that, right?
Spelt it as Cowboys. I kept typing in Dallas.
I don't know what's going on. The connection isn't great. I hope you hear me all right.
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't think the connection's terribly good. I hear a little whistling in the background. What, are we having a hurricane in Vancouver?
Sounds like he's flying a plane.
It's in the line. The weather's fine here. It's
really?
The phone line.
Oh, that's
what's
bizarre.
Going on.
Wow, you sound like you're flying in an airplane.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting in my apartment waiting for the Patriots to start on Sunday afternoon. So
well, see,
by
the time when this phone call is over, when this phone call is over, you'll be 5 or 10 minutes closer to kickoff.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I'm predicting. I'll just give it right out of the way. I'm predicting Cowboys 23, Patriots 20.
22-20. Okay, actually that's probably about right. I would give you that. If the Cowboys make a mistake and the Patriots can play cleanly, I think you could flip that script.
Yeah, it could go. It could change. It's just I see this as one of the teams that's better. I see there's 5 more games, including this one, where I pencil in the Patriots as a loss. But now it doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's just the way I see it, because generally this team is what we thought they were, right?
Right, but don't you have to,
coach would say,
Sean? Don't you have to beat somebody good somewhere along the line? And wouldn't the Cowboys fit that bill?
Sure, yeah, and this might be the week, but they're probably going to lose one of those toss-ups as well. You know, there's all the other 7 games I see as toss-ups, so, or not 7. I think it's more like 9 games, 17. But yeah, so it's a tricky one. But the way the Patriots could win this game, coming out of the gate, first play on offense, I want to see Ramondre in the backfield with Farrell Brown, but staying in the backfield, have Mac under center, and then play action. So one of 3 options. Either you're going to go to Mario Douglas underneath, you're going to go Bourne as an intermediate route, or Parker on a side trying to get over somebody's head.
Yeah.
And go with one of those plays and just change things up. Make it something that the Cowboys don't actually see. And in terms of Farrell Brown's role, I want him to have a big role, but I want him to see something different than last week. Have him there just looking out for that pass rush, looking out for wherever the Cowboys are going to get to Mac, and then, you know, playing up on Micah Parsons on the run, just going to find him and hitting him so Zeke can get through for some positive yardage.
Yeah, I hope so.
And that's where the offense could make a splash. And then I'm excited to see our cornerback, our rookie of the year potential, and Gonzo, going up against CeeDee Lamb. See the 4th in a row where he's shutting down a great receiver.
Yeah, that's really got my. I think that could be literally a matchup between 2 of the best young players in the league, right there. And you know, this will be a chance for, you know, Gonzalez to kind of show, hey, you know what, I'm the real deal. You know, if he can, you know, have a day where he can bat a few away and, you know, get a couple of those, DPUs, passes defended, that kind of thing, against a guy like CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, definitely.
What else?
That's what I'm thinking. So
yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay. All right. But you say 22-20, huh?
Enjoy the game.
All right. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate you. Thank you, buddy. By the way, Patriots fans, if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots. Toyota, let's go places. And Bridgestone is the official tire of the New England Patriots, and Bridgestone tires are now on sale through September 30th. Not much time left at all Sullivan Tire locations. Visit sullivantire.com for a location near you. In case you did not hear today, Patriots had perfect practice attendance, which includes Devon Godshaw, who left with a little bit of an ankle injury last week against the Jets, and also Cole Strange. He was a participant today in practice. The first injury report will come out in about an hour, maybe a little under an hour from now, so you can get that here on the website. But still, that's a step in the right direction. Full health is a step in the right direction. Here's our buddy Trey in Memphis. Hey, Trey, how are you, man?
What's going on, John? I'm doing good, man. How are you guys?
Hey, we're hanging. We're trying to go week to week here. How's Memphis?
Man, Memphis is it's been very hot down here in the South, John. Probably one of the hottest summers of my life.
Really?
I'm gonna be honest with you. So I mean, man, you talking about there was some weeks in August where we had 99 to 100 degrees and the heat index was like as high as 118. Wow. It was like smoking here. So,
Holy smokes.
Really, really smoking.
118. That actually
the heat index was. The heat index is here, man. Was like record high.
The warmest temperature I have ever been in was 117 degrees, and that was in Sacramento, California, where it can get pretty hot there north of the Napa Valley. You know, they're kind of in a hole there, and so it can get a little steamy there in the middle of the summer. I mean, that's
well,
like
apparently you haven't been home in Dallas in a while.
No. Well, I know. I know.
Dallas had record numbers.
Listen, I know they had that this year. In fact, this was the warmest summer It may have been, I don't know statistically, it may be the warmest on record, but I know it was the warmest since 1980. So it'd be the warmest summer they had in Dallas in over 40 years. And I remember the summer of 1980 because I was a college student at the time, and I lived in my I lived in my fraternity house that summer, which had no air conditioning. So I could not live in my room inside the frat house because there was no, I mean, I could open up the window, but it's like, right? Sure. Where was the breeze?
Wow.
So we also, there was one air conditioner in the room, one air in the entire dorm, frat house, and it was in the study because everybody wanted to be cool in the study, and we all pulled on mattresses in there and slept at night, because it was the only room that you could actually sleep somewhat comfortably. And that was the summer of 1980 where we had, oh, God, I think we had something like 21, 22, it was in the 20s, consecutive days of 100-degree temperatures. And that was between Dallas, and I went to school in Austin and Fort Worth, where I was originally from. It never got below 100 for over 3 weeks.
Wow.
It was like 103, 104, 106 every day.
I tell you what, John, you know it's hot when my children don't even want to go outside and play.
Yeah.
And it was still in the 90s at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. I mean, so, but
that's
you know, it was hot.
Oh, hey, I know that. Well, I was in Sacramento this summer visiting the sister-in-law, and it was 95 at about 9, 10 o'clock. I mean, it was warm. A couple of years ago, I went to Vegas, for a planned, vacation to actually go see the Grand Canyon, because I had never been in the Grand Canyon. I'd only flown over it. So we decided to go down in the Grand Canyon, and we stayed in Vegas because why not? It's Vegas, right? And when we were in Vegas, we're sitting up on the veranda, the top level of the hotel where we were staying. It was 100 degrees at 11 o'clock. 100 at 11. And I'm like, that's just, I mean, I remember I came from that. I grew up in that environment, but I don't know how people can do that now. How can they do that?
I don't know.
Trey, does it ever get too hot to barbecue?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. With that being said, great question. Absolutely not.
Okay, all right. Because I can't ever let you go without mentioning barbecue to you somehow.
Oh, I can't. Oh, well, no, the barbecue is happening, regardless of the inclement weather, regardless of what it is. It doesn't matter. The grills will be fired up, and they will be smoking like a freight train.
Nice.
Yes. All right, well, I want to get to the season.
Go.
Even though the Patriots are 1-2, we could easily be 3-0. You look at the first game; it was inches, and so it was an inch away. The second game, it's pretty much the same thing. Just a little bitty mistakes. Sunday's game against the Jets, it was going to be a tough game either way. The Jets gave us all we could handle, and I wasn't surprised that, it came down to the last play. And so, I mean, just found a way to win the game. I mean, so I pretty much, I'm not pushing the panic button yet. I mean, but, I love to see the offense do a little more than what they're doing. I mean, like I said, I don't know what's going on with Ramondre Stevens. I don't know if having Zeke there is a problem. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, but he's definitely not giving us the juice that we was getting out of him last year. There were sometimes the first two games I thought Zeke was touching the ball a little bit too much. And so, I mean, what are your thoughts on the backfield and where we are?
Yeah, Evan and I talked about this at the start of the show a little bit, Trey, that because I asked him the same thing. I said, Ramondre seems to be, he's not reading the holes well enough, and I wanted to know, at least in his estimation, is this Ramondre or is it the lack of consistency in the offensive line that's kind of holding him back? And I think we came to the conclusion that it's probably more the offensive line issue than it is Ramondre. He just thinks, look, they kind of brought Ramondre along slowly to start the year because they wanted to make sure there wasn't too much wear and tear on him early. So they wanted to kind of slowly reintroduce him back into the offense. And Evan kind of thinks that Ramondre's sort of like where he should be at the end of training camp about a month into the season. Yeah. And so he's hopeful that we'll continue to see more rapid improvement. And they've got to try to scheme him. And I think this is something that Bill O'Brien even talked about over the last couple of weeks, that, Ramondre has to learn to hit those holes quicker, and because you don't have offensive linemen that hold the blocks quite as long, so they've got to scheme it to where he can hit the holes faster, and so you might see more of that, and I think you also might see Ezekiel Elliott, as more of a lead back in certain situations, maybe even this week against the Cowboys, just because he's going to be motivated to play. And based on what I've seen through the first 3 weeks, I think Elliott still has a little zip left. Now, I don't know if he'll have that zip left in week 12 or 13, but right now in week 3 and 4, I'm seeing a little life left in the legs. So while we got some life in the legs, they should use it. Don't you think? And I think that's kind of where the running game is.
Well, my thing is, I understand, Zeke's gonna be motivated. They're playing in Dallas. So of course he had a little juice that we could see Sunday.
Yep.
So my worry, I'm not worried about it, but I just feel like I don't want him to just be juiced up, this week. Just because, we're playing Dallas, and then, from the rest of the season, we see that crap we saw week 1, not holding on to the ball,
sure,
not hitting the hole like he should. But now, I don't want to phase Ramondre out, because he was the MVP as far as that's me. He was our offensive MVP on last year. Because he carried us a whole lot.
Right.
And I don't want to. He's coming up on how many more years he have left on this rookie deal? Mm-hmm. Is this it, or he has one more? I'm not sure. But I love to see. Whatever the issue is, I love to see that get fixed, and I'm glad to see Kendrick Bourne. He seems to be out of Bill Belichick's doghouse from what I can see, and I'm looking at him to have a big game. I'm gonna let you guys roll. I know you got other callers.
Yeah, that's good. Trey, it's always good to talk to you, buddy. Thank you for the time. I'm not sure really how to answer that. I share a lot of the concerns that Trey has. I'm not entirely certain where his primary beef would be in this particular regard. But I would also tell you that, the start of a season can take on different shapes and forms and fashions and all kinds of things. And while I think we all kind of knew that the Patriots' start of the season was going to be difficult the way that the schedule lined up, and I said this during the preseason. I said this during the offseason shows that we do monthly, here on Patriots.com radio, that, this team can go 1-3 and it's not going to wreck the year. So as far as I'm concerned, this team is kind of on pace. Now, this also means that at some point they're going to have to get it straight, and they're going to have to figure out a way to make some headway. But, when you look at the schedule, I'm going to get the schedule in front of me here. Some of these games, in all honesty, some of these games that looked daunting even a month ago, okay, at the Raiders, Buffalo at home, certainly at Miami, Washington, Indianapolis, at the Giants, Chargers, at Pittsburgh. Then, of course, you get Kansas City at home. You got to go at Denver. I mean, guys, I think there's a chance there. Certainly an opportunity to win 7, 8, 9 games. Now, they probably would have to win. If we're going to do the what-ifing here. And the reason I'm saying this is because, look, I don't think that, even if this team loses to Dallas this weekend, which certainly could happen, even if this team loses to Dallas, there's an opportunity to bounce back here. And the opportunity exists, whereas a month ago I didn't think it did. But, look at it starts next week against, New Orleans. You can go and play at the Raiders and try to win that one. We'll be talking certainly about, last year's game, I think ad nauseum before that one. I think Buffalo, here in Foxborough is a winnable game. Washington, Indianapolis, at the Giants, the Chargers here in Foxborough, at the Steelers. These are all winnable games. At Denver, and, of course, the Jets at the end. You win those games that you think you could win, you're going to be at worst, I think, 10-7. So I don't like to put more than just one. I don't like to put more than 1 week's worth of weight on any particular week. We know where the faults are in this team. We've seen them already rise through the first 3 weeks. We kind of knew some of these were coming. There are a couple of others that are there that we weren't really expecting. Certainly the egregiousness of some of the play on the offensive line has been well documented, not only here but in various circles of the media throughout. They're finally getting healthy. Now they're healthier. I don't know if they'll ever be healthy, but that's something to be said for that. I think Mac, statistically, is having very good year, especially when you consider the guys who are blocking in front of him, and those guys are getting better. If I were so inclined, in the whole Mac controversy, I'd say, look, I think they've got to pick up his option next year, and I think they ultimately will. By the way, because I was going to mention this, and I said, no, it's not even worth it, but I just mentioned Mac Jones. This whole story about the cup check with Sauce Gardner, as Colonel Sherman T. Potter at MASH fame once said, mule muffins. Mule muffins. Okay? Listen, if you've ever played the sport of football, and I have, I didn't play it well, but I've played, enjoyed the sport. I've enjoyed covering it way more than I've enjoyed getting the crap beat out of me. But if you've ever played the sport, you undoubtedly have been on the bottom of a rugby scrum. Okay? And in football, at least you got, pads and things protecting your unmentionables. But if you could tell me that you have been in a pileup on the football field and not have somebody give you a cup check, dude, you lying. Okay? You lying. I think Sauce Gardner did was, I honestly believe he was manufacturing. Okay? It didn't look to me, from all the video angles that we've seen, it didn't look to me like anything was intentional at all. Max already to the point this week where I'm on to Dallas. I'm not even going to acknowledge it anymore. Agreed. Devin McCourty and even a few others have said, hey, these things keep surrounding you, and people keep thinking that you might be a dirty player. Then, hey, you got to do something to put yourself in position to not be in this position. And I don't disagree with that. Mac has to do what he can do, I think, to be on his best behavior. I think Mac is no different from anybody else that's really ever played the sport of football. And, somebody, he just got to remember, he just got slung to the ground, and there was no flag. So, he's going to get up from that, getting slung to the ground and that scrum there from the Jets. He's going to get up feeling a little feisty anyway. Guys do this. They bop each other in the jewels every now and then just to wake you up. And hey, shame on you if you're not wearing a cup. That's your fault. That's your bad. Okay? Man, I got to tell you, having been a Little League umpire for a long, long time myself, okay? And not knowing with absolute certainty that the young catcher in front of me was going to be able to get everything that was coming his way, yeah, you damn sure I had, protection. And I even remember that from my days, playing football and basketball. Again, not all that well, but I loved it. I loved playing anyway. So I'm no dope. And, I know that there are guys that say, well, I can't wear that because, it doesn't allow me freedom of movement. Okay. I'm good with that. Cup check. I'm going to do that to mess with you more than anything else. I don't think that's being dirty at all. That's gamesmanship. Okay? That's the point I'm trying to make. Gamesmanship happens all the freaking time. Or are you not aware of this? Is this world of ours so politically correct that you can't mess with a guy's head? Well, that's stupid. It's stupid. Matt's saying yes, but that's stupid.
Because then you got to apologize for it later.
No, you shouldn't have to apologize. All's fair in love, war, and sports. That's it.
1,000% agree.
That's it. I've always lived by that. I'm always going to continue to live by that. And anybody who thinks differently, well, I'm sorry you live that way. You have that right. You have that right. But I don't gotta. And I ain't gonna. Simple. Simple. It was a non-story. It was a non-story. That happens all the time. There are scrums, okay? All the time, guys are getting, yanked at. Groped. I think the line that I came up with is that there's more groping going down at the bottom of a football pile than at a drive-in movie on Saturday night. Okay? That's the way it is. That's just the way it is. So move on. All you, PC, oh, that's a terrible thing to do. Come on. Yeah, I'd call you a pink hat. That's what I would call you, a pink hat. Okay? Oh, I can't believe that you did that. That's terrible. Come on. Okay? All right. We'll get Russell on as soon as we can then, right? Okay. Maybe he just, we did tell him 3:30. So, that's the way it kind of works, kind of rolls on that. Russell's going to join us here in just a few minutes, we hope. And then Todd Archer from ESPN.com will join us in about 15 or 20 minutes. I got a couple emails that I want to read as well. By the way, let's talk stats. Bob's Discount Furniture has sofas that convert to sleepers when you're feeling sacked, mattresses that put you to sleep as soon as you touch down, and thousands of highly rated styles that keep the home team happy. Shop at Bob's, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. Howard from Stratford, Connecticut says, John, a couple of items. One, a win is a win. No turnovers, wasn't pretty, but don't care, just win. D, domination. O, for work in progress. Okay, I see. Yeah, because there's O's in work and O's in progress, and I think I can see that, Howard. Thank you. This week, keep the no turnovers trend going. Run the ball to set up the play action pass. Big D is not for Dallas. It is for Patriots defensive domination. Make Dak look like Zach. Ooh, I like that one. That's a good one. We should have coined that earlier this week. Make Dak look like Zach. Okay. I'll give you full credit for that one, Howard. Had this as a loss when I did my prediction when the schedule came out. But after watching the Arizona-Dallas game last week, I believe I need to rethink that. He says Pats 24, Dallas 17. Fair. I'm really the same way. Before last week's game, and that goes for the Dallas-Arizona game too, I knew that the Patriots were cruising toward an L at AT&T Stadium. I never felt it, which is why I was really hoping they could figure out a way to get a win over the Jets, because I thought, okay, this is a 1-3 shoe-in. But I also said, even when I said the Patriots could go 11-5, that I thought 1-3 was a start. Statistically, it'd be really tough for them to overcome that. But I thought they could. You want to make a bold prediction? That's a bold prediction. Start 1-3 and you finish 11-6. Come on, that's bold. Okay, maybe I need to have my head examined. Just don't grope me at the bottom of the pile. That's all I ask. Okay. What else do we have here? Claire sends this note. She says, "Hi John. Hi Marine. Tight endage. Yes, I love it. 3 tight ends, but Evan has a point on the well-rounded tight end. Hunter may be the one that's the most, but Gesicki is dynamic and fluid. Brown is turning out to be a good number 3, but I see his point. I'm still very excited by the tight endage cup overfloweth." I'm sure you are. Patty and Agawam. John, if I had a hammer, my heart is telling me to pick the Pats this Sunday, but my head is a different story. I think it's going to be another white knuckler with the Cowboys coming out on top 24-21. One of these weeks, Mac is going to have to try and pull a game out at the end. I just don't see it happening this week. You know, I think that also speaks to partly what Trey was talking about a couple of minutes ago, Patty. You know, it's coming, but is it going to come against a team that you kind of really feel like you can beat? Look, I think the next step the Patriots have to beat, if they're going to be a contending team, is they got to beat another contending team. This is as good a week as any. As Greg Bedard told us, you know, in the last hour, frankly, it would be great if the Cowboys were coming off a win here, because then they'd be, as I like to call them, fat and sassy. And, you know, they'd be feeling like, you know, well, we're doing everything right. Why are we going to mess with what's working? And then I think the Patriots have a better chance to game plan for them. Cowboys then become a little bit more predictable. Now the Cowboys have to look at it and say, wow, we gave up 222 yards on the ground to Arizona. We got to do something to fix that. And, yeah, maybe we need to open it up a little bit more on offense because we'd be attacking a rookie cornerback. So I'm just saying here, sometimes, you know, hey, it's great if the Cowboys lost and, you know, okay, so what? But they're still a contending team. They're still one of the more talented teams in the entire NFL, certainly within the NFC. I don't know if they're quite as good as Philly, but, you know, that's a strong division. The NFC East and the AFC East, to me, are the two strongest divisions in the NFL this year. And it just so happens to be the Patriots' luck that, you know, and the AFC East team's luck that they're playing the NFC East this year and vice versa. Be interesting to see how the head-to-head matchups really pan out at the end of this year. You know, I don't think Washington's terrible either. I don't think the Jets are terrible. Jets have a very good defense, and we saw that last week. You know, but anybody, I saw several arguments, you know, for the Jets saying, well, wow, if they had Aaron Rodgers, you know, well, I'll use Patty's phrase. Well, if I had a hammer, I'd be hammering in the morning. I'd be hammering in the evening. And okay, fine. The Patriots are missing 3 of their top defensive backs too. Okay, they're missing the Jones brothers, who all play back there. So, hello. You know, it wouldn't quite be the same team that Aaron Rodgers would be facing. I don't have to convince you of that, but I'm just saying, you know, Jets fans who are thinking, well, you know, if we had Aaron Rodgers, that would have been a 2-touchdown Jets win. Come on, man. You got to be real. You need a little bit more than that. I thought the Patriots' game plan against the Jets was superb. They wanted to make Zach Wilson beat them with his arm. He couldn't do it. I would tell you that 10-play, 75-ish yard drive at the end of the game where they pulled within 5 at 15-10 worried me quite a bit because the defense had several opportunities to make plays to get off the field, and they couldn't do it. And it was Zach Wilson at quarterback leading that charge. So that's got to be something that was and still is and maybe will be in film study for this week. But I do think that, you know, that there's going to be an opportunity there to improve on that. Bart from Poland via Cordoba, Spain. John, my friend had an opportunity to win a $1,200 parlay from $5 on Sunday. What was the one thing that missed? The Cowboys versus Arizona. And we were supposed to go party with that money. So let's beat the crap out of Dallas for that. Gonna blame him, right? He says 24-21 Pats. Oh, nice to hear from you. Nice to hear from you. Thank you for listening in and contributing to the program.
A real woman could stop you from drinking.
It has to be a real big woman.
It's time to go around the NFL with football guru Russell Baxter
From now on, your name is Flounder.
on Patriots Playbook.
Flounder, a.k.a. Russell Baxter. Hi, Russell. How are you today?
Well, I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Everything's good.
Death, taxes, and the Patriots beating the Jets.
Yeah, right. 15 in a row. I realize it's not a record, but it's certainly getting close to a record. It certainly ties a Patriots franchise record for beating a team, that many times consecutively. Do you ever see when a team gets into like ripping off 4, 5, 10, 15 in a row, whatever it is, do you ever see tendencies one way or the other that kind of give you a hint that maybe that streak is about to die?
You know, that's a great question because some of these streaks are
inexplicable, especially during free agency. You could almost understand them years and years ago, John, when rosters didn't change as much and coaching staffs didn't change as much. But you look now, and listen, I know Bill Belichick's been there the entire time. That's one small factor.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady hasn't been there the entire time, and they continue to win, and personnel changes. But what's the Raiders have beaten the Broncos now 9 times in a row? That's a team that has changed coaches numerous times. Okay, and so the Broncos.
Yep.
So I don't know how you put a finger on it now, opposed to years ago, when a team had a certain style that was counteractive to the team they were playing. Great historical equivalent to that would be Pittsburgh and Dallas.
Yeah.
Obviously they had played each other in Super Bowls 10 and 13. I know I'm going back a bit. But I think what people also forget is in 1977 when the Cowboys won the Super Bowl, when they won Super Bowl 12, I think they were the top-ranked offense and the top-ranked defense. They were 12-2. One of their 2 losses was to the Steelers in Pittsburgh, and it wasn't close.
Yeah.
The year after Super Bowl 13, Dallas went to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh beat them again. It was the game where Roger Staubach got knocked out with a concussion by Elsie Greenwood.
I remember that. I remember that. You bet.
And then you go into 1982, and Dallas had won like 17 straight openers. The Steelers were coming off back-to-back non-playoff years. It's a Monday night game, and lo and behold, what happens again?
Yeah.
Pittsburgh goes in and beats Dallas. And, in those latter years, what it really proved to be, and Pittsburgh was always defense-oriented, we know that, the Cowboys had one hell of a time covering 2 wide receivers named Lynn Swann and John Stallworth.
Hall of Famers, yeah, right?
Hall of Famers. And, in fact, I know you'll remember this, when the Steelers beat the Cowboys in Super Bowl 13, which to me historically, it's not – my favorite Super Bowl was Super Bowl 32, Denver and Green Bay, as far as how the game was played. Historically, half the Hall of Fame is in Super Bowl 13, from the ownership to the coaches to the players.
Yeah.
But Lynn Swann and John Stallworth were the first wide receivers in Super Bowl history at the time to both catch 100 yards of passes in the same game. And that was against Dallas in Super Bowl 13.
Yeah. Good historical stuff. I knew you would have that.
Well, and by the way, speaking of historical stuff, since you alluded to the fact that the Patriots is not a record, 2 teams that are playing this week hold the record, or at least one does, and that's the Dolphins and the Bills.
Yep.
The Dolphins beat the Bills. I like to call it like a bad acid trip. The entire decade of the 1970s.
Yep.
20 times in a row.
Which is incredible. Yep.
Now, and again, similarity, obviously Don Shula was there the whole time. O.J. Simpson was there a bunch of the time. The Bills had some solid teams over that stretch and so on, but they could not for the life of them beat the Miami Dolphins. And I'm going to actually be writing something about that with the 2 teams playing this week.
Nice. I look forward to that. I got, some games here on the schedule. Speaking of which, the Dolphins and Bills game is going to, I think, have a lot of interest around here. But the Thursday night game is got a lot of intrigue for a lot of reasons because both teams are 2-1. The Lions at the Packers. You expect the Packers maybe to be there. You don't expect the Lions to be there. The other intriguing thing is that, you know what? Thursday Night Football, for all of the hits that it's taken about being on Amazon Prime and nobody can find it where it is and all that kind of stuff, the ratings are starting to go through the roof. So it tells me either A, people are getting smarter and finding out where Amazon is on their cable or on their streaming systems, whatever they are, or B, it's just really good football, or at least starting to come into really good football, and it may be a little combination of both.
Well, before we talk about that game, I just got an update in my ear, by the way. Miami just scored again.
We'll get to that.
Yes, I know we will. No, you make a great point. Listen, if it's the NFL, people are going to find it. And, listen, they cut their teeth last year. New announcing team, veteran announcers. I mean, you can't do much better than Al Michaels. Kirkstreet, who does college and obviously pro football now and so on. So they find their niche, and as they grow, the schedule will get better for them. And they have a really good game this week. I think Green Bay has surprised some people, winning 2 of their first 3 games, and I think surprised people in the way they have looked, because I'm sure there were a lot of people who weren't sure. Detroit was everybody's darling, or most people's darling, as far as maybe winning the division this year and so on, off the way they finished last season, and knocking the Packers out of the playoffs like they did. So they returned to the scene of the crime, per se. Now, they stubbed their toes a couple weeks ago against Seattle. Green Bay had Atlanta dead to rights and couldn't hold on to that lead, and yet Green Bay bounced back with 18 unanswered points in the fourth quarter last week to beat the Saints. So, yeah, this is a very intriguing game. It'll be interesting to see if Detroit's pass rush can give Jordan Love a lot of headaches, and I wouldn't be surprised. I know Green Bay's offensive line has banged up, so that's something to keep an eye on. But no, I think you bring up a great point about Thursday Night Football and what Amazon is doing, and they're not lacking for quality names on their broadcast. I will certainly say that. But and listen, let's be really honest. You hear Al Michaels' voice, you're going to tune in.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. Yeah. All right, so let's get back to what the Dolphins did last week. I mean, goodness gracious sakes alive, 70. If 40 is a 40 dog and 50 is a 50 burger, what the hell is 70?
Well, 70 isn't something I've reached yet. I can tell you that. But I'm getting close. So here, let me tell you a piece I did this week about how wild this was. Obviously, when you score 70 points, which is tied for the second most in a regular season game in NFL history, and you roll up 726 yards.
Which was also number 2.
Number 2.
Right.
Here, I took a little closer look. I thought there was something was interesting. Their 70 points was more than any other of the 15 games that was played last week.
So their 70 alone was more than any other 15 games combined, right?
The second highest scoring game last week, John, was Carolina 37. Seattle 37, Carolina 27. 64 combined points.
Right. And they outscored, that's pretty good.
And they outscored them. Now, get this, 726 yards also was more than 11 games.
Gee, Merry Christmas.
So, in other words, there were not, for instance, the Chargers and the Vikings each totaled 475 total yards. So that wasn't on the list.
Mm-hmm.
There were also 3 other games that had more than 726 yards. But there were 11 games last week that the 2 teams did not combine for 726 total yards. And that includes Baltimore and Indianapolis, which actually played 5 quarters instead of 4 quarters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that, to me, we saw something last week that was astounding. And listen, they put backups in at the end. And, Denver couldn't stop a back from running. And it was, I don't know what to take from it in terms of a humility standpoint and how the Broncos bounced back from something like that. And yet Miami, who put 36 on the board in the first week, and, is really humming offensively. You can't say enough about Tyreek Hill, but you also can't say enough about their running game, which is really opened up the last 2 weeks. It really was a non-factor, and they really have not had much of a running game the last few years. When we get closer to wrapping up, I've got a question for you and people listening to the show about 2 games this week. One involves Miami and Buffalo, and the other one involves Denver and Chicago.
Okay.
And it's kind of an interesting parallel.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and lead into that. And you got Denver and Chicago both 0-3, which not a lot to look forward to that unless you're a fan of either team.
No, well, and if you're the Bears, not 0-3, but 13 in a row, they have now lost.
That's nuts.
Which I believe is the longest streak in the history of the franchise.
Of the franchise, right.
Might as well allude to my question.
Okay.
And this, again, I feel like a shill, but another piece you'll see over the weekend. and so on.
No, you're allowed to shill on this program, Russ.
Oh, okay. Well,
okay.
Miami is obviously the highest scoring team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Buffalo, by the way, is second. Buffalo has scored 91 points. 75 of them have come in the last 2 weeks in beating the Raiders and the Commanders. Okay. So obviously you have a matchup between the two highest scoring teams in the league. Okay. The two teams that have given up the most points in the league in 3 weeks are the Denver Broncos and the
Chicago Bears. Yeah. Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So here is my question. For two totally different reasons, John, which one of these will be the higher scoring game?
I think, right? I think that's a legitimate question. Now, I would tend to favor Miami Buffalo. I could see that one turning out to be like 48-45 pretty easily.
Sure.
But at the same time, if we're talking defensive ineptitude, then why can't the Broncos and Bears also be something like that?
Absolutely. And how often do you get an opportunity that in the same weekend, the two highest scoring teams and the two teams that have given up the most points in the league actually square off against each other? It's just crazy. It's something I happened to notice it this morning, and I think it's a fun thing to contemplate.
It definitely is that. Some 2-1 matchups that are worth looking at. Ravens playing at the Browns. And I also looked at the Bucs playing at the Saints, and I'm trying to pay attention to that, and I think Patriots fans would too, because the Saints will be here in Foxborough in another week. The Eagles are at home. They've got the 2-1 Washington Commanders at home, so I think there's the potential there for some decent games this weekend.
Oh, well, Baltimore and Cleveland to me is very much on my radar because, we talked about at the beginning of the year Cleveland's defense.
Yep.
And so far they have lived up to billing. Cleveland, I believe, has given up less than 500 total yards in 3 games. And how about this, John? The Cleveland offense has given up more touchdowns than the Cleveland defense.
Say that again?
The Cleveland offense, a Deshaun Watson pick six and a Deshaun Watson fumble return.
Yeah.
Have given up more touchdowns than the Cleveland defense.
Wow.
Won.
Good grief. That's crazy. That's crazy.
And listen, and Cleveland's playing. This is actually already their third divisional game in the first 4 weeks. And, if they manage to beat Baltimore, that'll put them, 2-1 in the division. They lost at Pittsburgh in a game where turnovers cost them. And yet they shackled, the only offensive touchdown Jim Schwartz's unit has given up in 3 weeks is that Kenny Pickett to George Pickens long touchdown pass. And that's it. So, the Browns have gone through their share of hell, for lack of a better word. I know they were in the playoffs a couple of years ago. Won a playoff game at Pittsburgh. Baker Mayfield and the team got hot at the right time, but they were last place again last year. And Jim Schwartz, with the people they brought in on that defensive line, they traded for Zadarius Smith. They signed Shelby Harris, Dalvin Tomlinson.
Yeah.
They already had Myles Garrett. That is one hell of a fierce front four. And I'll be curious to see how Baltimore's able to handle it.
Yeah. All right, I got to get onto the Cowboys here in just a second, Russell. So I'm going to ask you a quick thought about the matchup at Dallas this weekend and how you see what Dallas did last week and what the Patriots did last week, and if that kind of plays in New England's hand, or just because Dallas might be a little perturbed that they didn't play well, might they play more into the Cowboys' hands?
I think it plays more into New England's hands because. And this term gets overused so much. Blueprint. No stretch of the imagination that I expect the Arizona Cardinals to run for over 200 yards against the Cowboys.
Yep.
And it made it look pretty easy doing it. I didn't think they had that kind of personnel up front. But, of course, you know this as well as anyone. It's hard to sack the quarterback when the running back has the football.
Yeah.
And I think that play by Josh Dobbs, that ironically, that long run that he had down the sidelines in the first half, I think that really put the Cowboys on their toes. They melted in the red zone when they did have the football. It wasn't like they didn't move the football. I think Arizona's been, they let 2 games get away from them against Washington and Philadelphia, and they dominated the Cowboys. All that, I don't know where this tanking talk gets into every year. They don't look like a tanking football team to me. Now, if New England is patient with its ground attack, I see no reason that they can't do the same thing to Dallas that the Cardinals did to Dallas and keep that heat off of Mac Jones.
Yeah.
And, the Cowboys, offensively, it's funny because they scored 70 points in the first 2 games. But offensively, they look like quite in sync, to be honest with you. And I'll be curious to see what Bill Belichick throws at them. I mean, I'll be curious to see how often Matt Judon, who's among the sack leaders in the league again, is in Dak Prescott's face.
Right. Russell, thank you. As always, my friend, it's great to talk to you, and let's try it again next week. We'll do better.
Hey, we were able to get the whole segment on there this time.
I know. Hey, damn cell phones. Believe me, I get it. Thank you, my friend. Always good to talk to you. At Bax Football Guru on X, Twitter, whatever the hell it is. Todd Archer covers the Cowboys for ESPN, ESPN.com. He's kind enough to give us a few minutes today here inside the playbook. Hey, Todd, John Rook here in Foxborough. Thanks for the time. I know you're busy.
Yeah, no problem. Let's talk about a Zeke's homecoming, I guess, right?
Well, that's kind of where I was going to start, to be honest with you. I mean, how big a deal is it from a Dallas perspective, and how big a deal should it be from a New England perspective? Because if Zeke has a little life left in those legs, my guess is he'd really like to spend some of that energy on the team that said, we don't need you anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, I was thinking about it today. I haven't covered the Cowboys since 2003, and obviously you learn the history of the franchise. Other than Emmitt Smith coming back here in 2003 with the Arizona Cardinals, I can't think of another player of Zeke's note with a homecoming like this. Mm-hmm. So, you're looking at, 21 years apart, 3rd all-time leading rusher in franchise history, a guy beloved by his teammates, guys today talking about him, just how much he meant to them over his time here in Dallas. And, the Cowboys will have a little video tribute to him before the game. Probably Jerry Jones hinted at that today on the radio. So from a football perspective, though, you kind of hit on it. And your last guess there about Arizona running for 200 yards on the Cowboys, I'm pretty sure that the Patriots saw that, and they're going to want to say, okay, let's see if we can run on the Cowboys. And that's been their Achilles heel the last few years. And if they don't get in the lead, if they can't maintain gap responsibilities, they have a hard time stopping the run, and they certainly did last week.
Yeah, and I really think that was the key. I mean, you obviously saw the game much closer than I did, but that was the key from what I witnessed, is that, they kind of took it right to Micah Parsons, and he was, I think caught in no man's land more often than he would like to have been, which is part of the reason why the Cardinals had some of the success that they had. So I'm sure that that's going to be a point of emphasis this week in practice. What else should be, do you think, for Dallas? Because, the Patriots are kind of predictable too. They kind of know what New England brings to the table here.
Right. If you're talking like defensively, it has to be stopping Elliott and Ramondre Stevenson and putting it on Mac Jones and see if he can make plays with their outside perimeter guys. They'll miss Trayvon Diggs, no question about that. But they can kind of compensate for that with pass rush. If they can't, they like to say pass rush is a privilege. Well, if they don't get in favorable pass rush situations by stopping the run, it doesn't much matter. And then on the other side of the ball for the Cowboys, it's figuring out what they're doing in the red zone. They're 3 for their last 11. They have 15 red zone possessions. That's the good news. Most in the league, they're moving it up and down the field. But once they get inside the 20, they can't punch it in. They probably missed Zeke a little bit there. But last week they missed 3 Pro Bowl offensive linemen too. And we're not sure if you're going to see Tyron Smith, Tyler Biadasz, or Zach Martin this week either. So they got a lot offensively they need to clean up going against a Patriots defense that's obviously strong and talented and has a coach like Belichick that changed things around. And they're really good, generally speaking, in the red zone as well. So it's going to be a pretty solid matchup here between these two teams. And I don't know if it'll be like it was a couple years ago when it went to overtime.
Yeah.
but I think it'll be as close, maybe not as high scoring.
Yeah, you mentioned the offensive line issues that the Cowboys are having. It's a similar situation here. The Patriots started the year with offensive line issues, and it looks like, everybody was at practice today. It looks like, at least they're getting guys back onto the field. Where do the Cowboys stand in terms of trying to get, some of these guys back into their lineup, do you think?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I cut out there.
Sure, yeah, no problem. So where do you think the Cowboys are in trying to get some of their wounded up front back on the offense to contribute?
I would be surprised if Tyron Smith plays at this point at left tackle, and then it becomes, okay, you move Tyler Smith out to left tackle where he played last year, or keep him at left guard and go with somebody else. I think Zach Martin will have a chance to play this week. Tyler Biadasz has a hamstring strain. That one's always kind of tricky. So maybe Zach Martin gets back, but, under Mike McCarthy, the Cowboys have had 60-some-odd offensive line combinations since he got her in 2020. Hard to build up your continuity on an offensive front. So they're going to ask Dak Prescott to get it out quick again. And it works to a degree, but then when you get in the red zone, you better be able to score, and that's obviously the issue that they've had.
Is the issue over the Cowboys not being able to either score in the red zone or go vertical like we've seen them do a lot in the last couple of years, simply because Mike McCarthy is calling the plays and he tends to be more conservative than, say, Kellen Moore was?
I don't know if it's conservative so much as it is just a difference in philosophies and schemes, right? Like you think of a West Coast offense, it's timing-based, it's get it out quick and let guys make plays after they catch. But there's still a lot of this offense that remains the same that Dak has had since his rookie year in 2016. So they just need to do a better job of winning outside. And when they do take their shots, block it up better. CeeDee Lamb's off to a really good start. Michael Gallup finally had a game worth noting. Last week, 6 catches for 92 yards. His best performance since Thanksgiving 2021. And then Brandon Cooks has to get going. Didn't play in week 2. Played last week, but didn't really do very much in the pass game. But he's a guy that they're going to have to get involved. And as McCarthy says, you have to make chunk plays to win in this league. And it's hard to go the distance all the time. So they're going to need to make some big chunk plays against the Patriots defense. That's largely pretty averse. Miami might say differently, but pretty averse to giving up the big play.
Sure. Todd, what does this Dallas team do well right now, and where do they need to make their biggest improvement?
Well, they rush the passer well, and I realized that after last week, that's a little different. And last week skews everything, really. But the best trait of that defense is their ability to take the ball away and their ability to affect the quarterback. And even without Trey Diggs, they have guys that can take the ball away. Deron Bland, who's replaced him, has had 6 interceptions in his first 2 seasons. You're going to see Stephon Gilmore. He's a guy you guys know all about. He's still playing at a solid level. They have to set the tone defensively, and that's one thing Dan Quinn, when he talked to us on Monday, that he was most disappointed wasn't the missed tackles, it wasn't the yards that they allowed, wasn't the points, all that stuff. It was that when someone said, "Hey, that didn't look like your defense," he said that felt like a five-finger slap across the face. I have a feeling that these guys generally respond to poor outings, and I think you'll see them play much better on Sunday against New England.
All right. And then, with all the red zone troubles, as we sort of alluded to, have you seen, anything definitive as to why this team struggles like it does? Because, listen, having CeeDee Lamb out there, I'm really looking forward to that matchup with Christian Gonzalez, because I think that could be 2 of the best young players in the entire NFL going at each other. But, have they become too one-dimensional? Is it because they're trying to rely too much on the running game? What are they doing differently when they get inside the 20?
Yeah, I think some of it was, the Jets week, they went 2 of 6 in the red zone. Some of those drives late in the game when they drove it down there, the game was over. They weren't going to pull out a whole bunch of stuff, and McCarthy was generally content to kick field goals in that one. It was 30-10, and it might not even been that close.
Mm-hmm.
So you take that as maybe a one-off. Last week, they got hurt by penalties once they got down there. And honestly, another thing that hurt them, it was always like 1st and 10 from the 11. That's a hard situation to be in.
Sure is.
Yep. The field's so condensed. There's not a lot of places you can go. But again, Dak needs to play better. A couple fade balls need to be in better spots. And his receivers on the outside and his tight end they have to win more. You know, the offensive line, even though they didn't have 3 guys, still put up 400 yards. They weren't necessarily the issue. They just need to have guys do better in their one-on-one matchups, and that's where that stuff gets exposed more in the red zone.
How's your brother Gary doing?
He's doing good. He's waiting for another BC Friar season to get going here. So,
I know.
You know,
I know.
I'm excited to see what Kim English brings to the squad as well. It should be a good one.
Well, I think they'll have some talent, which will make your brother Gary and all the other Friar fanatics, I think, somewhat intrigued by the start of the season. But
You're never happy, as you know.
I was just going to say, you know, he comes up to me before games where we start the broadcast. He comes up to our announce booth, and he looks at me, and he looks like he just ate a lemon.
No, that's his resting face. He's always like that.
I love it. I love it. Well, I appreciate you, Brother Todd. Thank you so much for the time on the Cowboys, and I look forward to visiting with you again on Down the Trail.
Sounds good. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
You bet. Todd Archer, ESPN, ESPN.com, covering the Dallas Cowboys, as he said, now for 20 seasons. So he's got a little experience on a beat that I was on for a very, very long time as a very, very young man years ago. And we refer to his brother Gary. Gary Archer is a dear friend. I've known Gary for well over 30 years, and he is a long-time season ticket holder of Providence College basketball. So, you know, and he's just, we got to figure this out, you know, and he comes over and he's like, you know, I know we just beat Villanova by 25, but damn, I'm really worried about this one. And I'm like, Gary, you just have to lighten up, Francis. Maureen, you see him sometimes when he comes over. The short little guy with the white hair, and he's got the beard, and he comes over and he kind of looks at me like, hey, I'm Gary Archer here, and I'm like, Gary, I know who the hell you are. Okay, I've only known you for 35 years, dude. But he comes over with that serious look, and I don't know if we can beat these guys. I'm like, you got to lighten up and enjoy life. Really, you got to lighten up and enjoy life. It's the Friars, baby, the Friars. I'm going to give Andy in Vermont the last word on the show here. Hey, Andy, how are you doing? And thanks for hanging in.
Oh, John, good to hear from you. Good to talk to you. I know it's been a while. I think, with some of the stuff the Patriots are going through, I think the hardest thing they're dealing with is the offensive line. And we need Scar. We need Scar to come back.
Well,
just for a short while.
Okay, I understand why you say that, because the thought had crossed my mind too. All right, I'll be honest. However, at some point in time, you got to allow the man to move on with what he wants to do with the rest of his life. That's number one. Number two, somebody eventually has got to take this thing over, and I don't think this is a coaching issue. I really don't. And whether or not you think it's Adrian Clem's fault or not for any of the inadequacies in the offensive line right now. The major issue here is they just haven't been able to put healthy guys on the field together until now. So we saw a step in the right direction. They graded out well, if you believe in what Pro Football Focus does with the grades. They certainly graded out well this last week. Mac Jones was clean. So, I mean, let's take it a step at a time. And if you can, keep Micah Parsons from, decapitating your quarterback this week, again, I think that's a step in the right direction. I think the Patriots will, try to get the ball out quickly, and they'll try to run the ball right at, Parsons, or they'll invite him into the backfield, as we talked about earlier on the show today, and see if they can't just, wham right past him. And I think that'll certainly be a part of it. It's kind of like throwing the old football sucker punch.
Yeah, the Cowboys had a great defensive win first week, and I think overall Patriots offensively, especially this kid Farrell Brown, holy smokes, good addition to the team. And we had a right tackle that joined the team recently. He's a young guy; he might be working out too.
Yeah.
I want to take the conversation and turn it a little bit.
Okay.
My friend Joey Ventura, did a lot of the graphics for the cleats for the defensive guys that always, when they played a certain time of year, cancer awareness and stuff, they always got auctioned off. Joey passed away. He's my age, mid-50s. Passed away earlier this month.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah,
huge loss.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned it, and I didn't realize that was his background. But that's tough.
He fronted. He's a musical guy like me. He fronted the Bon Jersey, the Bon Jovi tribute band, for about 20 years. But his passion was graphic arts with doing motorcycle helmets and the cleats for a lot of the defensive guys on the team. Well, he did really well at it, and he was always a big hit with the players. And a sad loss. A friend of mine that was down in the Springfield, Chicopee area.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up. I'm glad you mentioned him, and I'm glad you gave him gave him his props here on the program. Good job out of you, Andy.
Yeah, good to talk to you, and I hope to catch up with you another time this season.
Let's do it. Whenever you're ready, I'll be here.
Okay, John. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy in Vermont. Going to wrap up our program today. A reminder, Patriots fans, if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots, Toyota. Let's go places. Ooh, quick update on the Patriots Playbook Fantasy League, all right? Kamish, you beat Big Gronkowski last week. Way to go. All right. Arm Dussault is also had a big win. ACP had a big win. The Bamboo Shooters beat the Football Orgasms. Love that. We're on to Cincinnati. Got a big win over Go Pats. Date Mike, wow, 184 points against the Chowderheads. That's a pretty good day. Pretty good day. So the league standings then after week 3, after 3 weeks. Bamboo Shooter is up at the top. Dake Mike, Big Gronkowski's. Kamish, you're 5th. Come on, man. You got work.
I'm not trying to win. I'm on the show every day.
You got work to do. You got work to do is all I'm saying. We'll try to give you a little bit of a Patriots Playbook Fantasy League update here at the end of the program each and every week. Our thanks to Todd Archer from ESPN, ESPN.com, covering the Cowboys. Our thanks to Greg Bedard, who writes extraordinarily well. And if you're not a subscriber, you probably should be, to the Boston Sports Journal. Great Patriots coverage now between him and Mike Giardi. Okay, so it's probably worth your time. Our thanks to Russell Baxter, of course, and Evan Lazar, as he always is, in the Playbook on Wednesdays. Next Wednesday, same Pats time, same Pats channel. And we'll talk about those Saints as the Patriots get ready to come back home to play at Gillette Stadium. Enjoy the game this weekend. So long, everybody.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.